Hey, it's Andrew Morgan, host of the Nomcast, the Netflix original movie podcast. Each week we preview and review the biggest Netflix original movies with special guests from the film industry, the music industry, comedians, and of course our fellow critics and podcasters. The Nomcast is available on nomcastpod.com or wherever you get your podcasts, on the socials at nomcastpod, and is a part of the Forgotten Entertainment family.
Hi, I'm Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler.
And you're listening to the Forgotten Cinema Generic Ad.
Join us every Wednesday as we talk about films that seem to be forgotten by audiences, whether it be because a more popular movie was released at the same time or the film simply didn't catch on with an audience in its initial run. We'll discuss what we love about the film, maybe don't love about it, but we'll always recommend you revisit it. You never know, you might find your own forgotten gem. Forgotten Cinema is available wherever you get your podcasts or at ForgottenCinemaPodcast.com or ForgottenEntertainment.com, as we are a proud part of the Forgotten Entertainment family.
I swear I talk more in the episodes.
Hi, I'm Shamar Griffith, codename Comic Shams.
And I'm Andrew Tejada, codename Arate.
I'm a blurred with a love for artwork and comics and animation.
And I'm a writer and blurred with a love for pretty much the same things.
We grew up together and spent much of our formative years watching and talking about DC superhero shows and content. In fact, we still do.
Every episode, we will discuss a DC production, compare it to its original source material, and share our thoughts on the adaptation.
We've enjoyed our conversations these past couple of decades, and we think you will too.
This season, we'll put a shock to our system by covering Static Shock, the animated series, on
yet another DC animated podcast. Welcome to yet another episode, yet another DC animated podcast. My name is Shamar Griffith, codename Comic Shams.
And I am Andrew Tejada, codename Arate.
Andrew and I have known each other since 1996.
That was the year the deadly hair virus infected Windows 95 computers. It was nicknamed HD Euthanasia.
What?
Because this is kind of savage. So it would infect your files, your hard disk, and on August 22nd and September 22nd, it erases everything on your hard disk. And it would read HD Euthanasia by Demon Emperor, Hari Krishna, hair.
Oh my God. Wow. See, this is probably why you shouldn't have downloaded LimeWire back in the day.
Exactly. This is what happened every time. Your floppy disks gone.
But okay, I'm seeing the connection, especially because it is a familiar tactic from a couple episodes back. But today we're actually talking about our final episodes of Static Shock. Can you believe it?
I can't. In fact, there's 52 more episodes. No, it's over. These are the last two.
This is it. These are legit episodes 51 to 52. So it's got that classic DC run, as we're talking about season 4 episodes 12 and 13, Kidnapped and Power Outage. And since this is the conclusion of our Static Shock series, we're going to miss you, my boy. He is one of the most electrifying heroes of all time. So that's why on his exit, we're calling this one Lights Out.
Poetic, fitting. Yeah, it works for me.
Now, I'm going to do a little something different here because of the fact this is the last episode of Static Shock we are covering. I want to save the cast list towards the end, because I want to make sure that everybody's getting their flowers for this particular episode, and because it is the end of the series. But we'll share that we do have a couple special guest stars, as we have from, you know her face from the series Just Shoot Me, but you know her voice more as Chicha from Disney's Emperor's New Groove, both the 2 movies and the TV show that was created. You will recognize Wendy Malick voicing Dr. Karen Roberts, aka Amnara. And we also have Ed Begley Jr. He's returning once again as Dr. Todd for our Power Outage episode. So now that we have these two, it's time to begin the end.
Yeah, so right now he started off as any good Static episode starts, gears tweaking. Something's going on with his technology. He's flying all over the place. And he pretty much quickly discovers he has a virus infecting Backpack. And, you know, from the Brainiac episode, he doesn't play around with no viruses. So he goes off to try to fix it, while one of the drones that Android 20 created to follow Goku follows Static home. And because Static doesn't close his blinds, the drone is easily able to figure out his secret identity.
Word. I was so upset because it's like, one, how do you not have a secret entrance into your own home, given that you fly in every day? But as the drone captures the video of Static taking off his mask, revealing himself to be Virgil, we jump over to Alva Industries, where we see that Edwin Alva is firing someone who he basically hired to try to find out Static's identity. And it's weird because it's just like, how have we not heard about this person in the last 4 years?
They have not been doing a very good job.
They really haven't. I feel like everybody else has figured it out at some point, and this person is still trying to. Basically, she was hired to manipulate the satellites that Edwin Alva has control over, which seems like every single satellite in the world. And she's been looking for any trace of Static's identity to try to figure out who he is. But we also find out that now that Alva has his son back, it seems like he's no longer interested in this venture. So he decides to fire her. He decides to fire Dr. Karen Roberts, as she was originally brought on not to only find out Static's identity, but Edwin Alva had promised her to fund her true work.
Yeah. And I mean, considering she has access to every satellite and camera on Earth, like already, anything she's going to come up with is terrifying. We know from the jump. But I also want to point out that, of course, when she was saying, "What do you mean you're shutting me down?" and then they said her name was Karen, I was just like, yeah, we're on to something here. You're really on to something. You're ahead of your time. But Karen does not take this lying down. Instead of going to the manager, she becomes the manager and she hires Puff and Onyx to kidnap Robert Hawkins.
Yeah, because after Edwin Alva leaves and she is now about to be escorted out by security, one of her drones shows the video footage of Static taking off his mask. So after she hires Puff and Onyx, Sharon is walking out with Robert from the community center to go start the car. And somehow Puff was just hiding out in the car the entire time in the exhaust pipe.
Crazy powers.
Word. So she's in there for so long that the car is just unable to move. But then again, it did look like a hoopty, so I'm pretty sure that it probably wasn't going to move to begin with. And as Puff encircles Robert, this is when Onyx drives up, boxes Sharon in, as the two of them have now successfully kidnapped Robert. And as they're driving off, Sharon is just basically in pursuit, showing off that she learned from Dominic Toretto in her own driving skills. Very clutch in this scene, as the two of them, Sharon along fighting against Puff and Onyx, are just like driving through a bridge where Puff decides to throw off some of her puff darts to take out the wheels on Sharon's ride. But luckily for her, Static does fly over in time to see what's happening.
Yep, that's the power of family right there. So Static does save his sister. Unfortunately, the car goes crashing into a building. Not Static's fault. You got to prioritize your sister. But tragically, this is the car he was going to inherit, which I also like. Bro, you can fly. So I don't really know why you're so concerned about this car. But in any case, he quickly finds out that his father has been kidnapped. And this leads to a great montage of Static going around the city interrogating the meanest and most fearsome villains for information. So you know already. I don't even have to say the names, but I'll say them anyway. You know Bigfoot is on this list.
Mm-hmm.
You already knew Carmindale was here. Come on. Let's not play around. The fiercest villains in Dakota. And he eventually makes his way to Puff and Onyx, and in a really proof that he leveled up. You know, unlike some shows when they say characters level up and then they don't do anything. Flash, Static is able to casually blast away Onyx and Puff with little effort.
Yeah, I love this scene because it just shows, you know, it's that kind of like typical kind of like Batman kind of feel, but you know, being it is Static, it just felt so much cooler. We saw the extent of his powers in the Consequences episode, like, and that was him pissed off beyond belief. This is Static still being rational in his actions. So now that Puff and Onyx realize that they ain't going to be able to stop him at this point, Onyx pleads with Puff to pass over the message that the person that hired them asked them to pass over. So Puff passes this note, and as Static flies off, you know, she starts commenting, like she finds it really weird that like after all these years, Static just gonna just fire off at them over just some random guy. But we know that it's because it is his father. So now Static flies over to the junkyard. I believe it's actually the same junkyard in which he basically almost like TKO'd Madeline Spaulding.
Mm-hmm.
And he is waiting around looking to see what's happening when an elevator from nowhere moves some trash to the side and comes out of the ground, beckoning him to come forward to take him to the next level of this game.
I mean, it must be the same engineers that built the Batcave, you know, no secrets, the secrets while they're constructing. And he meets Karen, who is now going by Nara. Okay, Karen.
She wanted her name to be a little spicy.
Yeah, I guess so. Not too spicy.
Not too spicy.
No, just as spicy as some mayonnaise. And yeah, she confirms that she has access to like every camera on Earth. But in order to fully weaponize her surveillance, she needs some crucial tech that she left behind at Alva, and she only trusts Static to go in there surgically and get it. And if he doesn't, this cage of lasers she created will slice Robin into ribbons. So she's fully prepared to kill for this. Mm-hmm. And before Virgil agrees to anything, he wants to have a quick meeting with his father.
So Amnara takes Static downstairs to where his father's being held, and he starts putting on the front saying that Mr. Hawkins, don't worry, I'm going to make sure you get out of here safely. And in a shocking scene, Robert looks up and tells him, you can cut the act, Virgil. I know it's you.
I did gasp. I gotta say, I forgot this happened.
Yeah. I gasped the same way that I did when I first saw this episode as a child. Oh my gosh, this is a pinnacle moment because we have been waiting for something like this to happen for years, not for it to be like a Bang baby discovered his secret, not for a friend to discover that Virgil and Static are one and the same. This has been a conversation that he's been wanting to have with his father for at least 2 years. Like back in that father and son episode when the parallel between Edwin Alva Jr. and Senior. So now there's no way that Virgil can even deny it because he's at a point where his father truly knows. He admits that, like, you know, he sees it now. There's no way to deny it because he's been taken in by this random person who he has no connection to. So he just picked up on the fact that it has to be that his son is Static. But more importantly, he drops that in the back of his mind, he feels like he's always known, which says so much about Robert as a father, to be honest.
Because I remember back in that episode, he, you know, when Static was going to tell him, he says, "Son, I trust you. You don't have to tell me where you're going, where you're always running off to. Just, make sure you're taking care of business." So it is nice to have that come full circle here and have him come to the realization on his own. And this is a great, I love this moment. I love that it raises the stakes now too, because now we have a chance for their relationship and dynamic to enter this new level.
Yeah.
But first, Static has to commit some crimes. And it's not going to be easy because Alva Industries has access to every camera and every laser in existence as they all fire towards Static.
Yeah, but Static shows us here that basically Fast 8 might have a legal issue, because as he's being forced by Omnara to steal all this tech, he easily escapes everything, betraying the confidence or semi-confidence that Edwin Alpha has had in him after the events of No Man's Island. So he is able to successfully steal Project Omni, which we now learn from a dual scene between Edwin Alpha and Static talking with Omnara, is a program that Karen had Dr. Roberts had put together to basically tap in fully to the World Wide Web, to the point where she can control all data coming in, going out. Basically, her thoughts, she can transform that into reality. And the more I hear about this, I'm just like, yo, this is basically what Brainiac was trying to do.
Yeah, this is straight up a Justice League threat. Like, I get really like, this is an Avengers level threat right here. Because she could put a computer virus in every computer. It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
But she does realize that there is one piece she's missing, the neural interface helmet. And because building stuff takes too long, she says, yo, Virgil, go steal that for me too. And while he's attempting to steal it from a truck, Gear arrives, and they are, Virgil can't blow his cover because she's in his ear.
Mm-hmm.
So they're forced to fight. And I love that this fight starts with a shocking scene of destruction as Static destroys a piece of a building for no reason.
There's no holding back. And it got so intense, like the music that they were playing too. It was just like, it was the official Dragon Ball Z standoff of the series. This is Goku versus Vegeta, probably like, I don't know, at Dragon Ball Super status. Because as Static is just telling Gear that he needs to back off and that he's going to steal this tech no matter what, we do see them basically almost hold back enough because they don't want to hurt each other. But at the same time, it's just like Static was really going all out, as was Gear. And unfortunately, as Gear tries to dodge an attack, this gives Static an opportunity to shock his jet boots, which causes him to fall to the ground. And as Gear is trying to recollect himself, Static flies over and grabs him by the back of the head and says the words, "You little worm, you will always be a worm. Why don't you just run a diagnostic to figure out how much of a worm you truly are, because you're never going to be anything else." So now Static flies off with the last piece of Project Omni. And this is honestly the definition of laying it on thick.
Yeah, I do love this because after dropping off the helmet and Omnara, Karen gains access to every manager in the world all at once. Becomes the Ultra Manager. Ultra Instinct Manager. Just too powerful. She can call everybody. Richie arrives and says, and Static's like, "Oh my God, you got the code." He's like, "Of course, you laid it on so thick." And he created a counter virus that is on a single CD.
Yeah.
When like most like games took like 2 CDs at least, he created a virus, a world-spanning virus, antivirus. It's crazy. And while Ultra Instinct Karen is distracted, they go in to save Robert. And I love that as Static is pulling Robert through opening in the lasers, Robert sucks in his gut just to be safe. We would all do the same thing.
Yes.
So they get him out, and now they have to deal with Ultra Instinct Karen, who, now that she has control of every electronic device, nuclear codes, right?
You know, I thought the same thing. Like, that would have been the first thing to go to. But she's just like, I'm going to release the ground to air missiles to attack all of Alva Industries. You're more powerful than Alva at this point.
Yeah, what's the point, you know? This is an Avengers level threat.
Word, call in the reserves too.
But I do love that because of this missile sequence, we get Alva, when he realizes the missiles are heading his way, he's like, oh, well, call the pilot. Very casually. He's not even bothered. He's just like, let's get out of here. And as they come to the surface, Gear tries to hide his identity from Robert. And I love his adult voice here. But Robert easily puts 2 and 2 together and figures out it's Richie instantly, right before they go into the final battle.
So now they're out on the streets. Amnara is calling out Static, and she shows that she really was able to turn her thoughts into reality thanks to technology she has access to. So this is when Static turns to Robert, and earlier in the episode, when his father does reveal that he knows this Virgil, he pleads with him. He's just like, I'm so sorry that this happened to you. You know, this is all my fault. I promise you that once this is all done, I will hang up the cape for good. And in this moment, he says the same speech, but he's twisted a little bit by saying, I know I said I was going to hang up the cape, but there still is one more job. And his dad looks at him and says that he understands, but more importantly, he's glad that his son is a superhero. And Static flies off alongside with Gear. They're destroying all the missiles. Unfortunately, it's too much for them as they get sent back down to the ground in a crazy, chaotic scene. Now, Amnara, Karen, she shows that she has access to all of the managers, I guess, connected to Ford and Toyota. Mm-hmm. And she starts sending off the electrical cars their way. And in a really cool scene, even though Gear gets once again get taken out by a trash truck or a trash can, as Static is about to get run over, Robert jumps in, and he shows right now that, like, what the Rocket had called him back in the Linked episode is real, because the tackle that he gave, the speed he executed, yo, this is a family of superheroes for real.
Yeah, are we sure he isn't the Streak? Yeah. Two things I had questions about in this scene. One, Richie is seen destroying missiles several times. What is he packing? What kind of weapons does he have in that grenade pack? Because dude, you destroying missiles real casually.
And yeah, he still couldn't put in any scissors. Like, I don't understand.
No scissors.
No scissors.
Again. And secondly, you know, she's controlling all the computer chips in the cars, she says, and harnessing those. So Fast 8, you need to talk to your lawyers, because again, that's another plot point you stole. Charlize Theron did the same thing. So I'm going to need y'all to answer some questions for me. But in all this chaos, finally, the CD spins just one extra good time, and they remember to clean it off with some rubbing alcohol. And
I was just about to say, somebody made sure to wipe it off.
Yeah, when it was kids, you know, when it was scratched, your CDs, you had to rub them with alcohol and pray for the best. I don't know if it did anything. But that's what you had to do back in the day, and it did something this day, because Ultra Instinct Karen finally depowers the base form.
Yep. Gear once again saves the day by downloading LimeWire. And now she's being carried away on the stretcher, very reminiscent of what happened to Madeline Spaulding, both in the Attack of the Brain Puppets episode and in the Shabak episode. So as she's like babbling on about how she can't interface with the thing, Static is glad because this means for him that his identity is once again safe. But now that he realizes that more than one person knows compared to last time, and that person now is his father. So he goes over to talk about it one more time with his dad. Robert is upset at this point because he's realizing the amount of times they broke curfew, the amount of times that they didn't take out the trash because they were out there fighting Carmandillo. Like, they're basically facing danger every day. And he even admits that he wants them to stop because they're like, I don't know, like 16 or 17 still. And every day, all their lives, they've been having to fight for the last 4 years. So this is when Static and Gear kind of look at each other and they're like, we don't know what to do at this point, because it might mean that based off of Robert's wishes, they may have to truly hang up the cape, which they don't want to do.
Yeah, and in the one last surprise, the one last surprise of the episode, we have Robert say he's gonna get used to it. He's gonna let them make the choice of what they were given these powers for a reason. He's gonna let them choose what to do with them. And Father of the Year once again, solidifying that he's there to support because he knows what all the good they've done by themselves. So imagine, with extra support, what they could do. And he does ask for one request, is that they tell Sharon. And it's another such realistic Black families. When they go home, Sharon is only concerned about the car. She is devastated about the car. She's mad at Static about the car because apparently Dakota does not have insurance for Bang Baby incidents.
It's been 4 years.
I couldn't believe that. They're the real supervillains. Forget Alba. Forget Karen. The real supervillains are the insurance companies because these claims need to be filed. All right. Static threw my car and missed. I need that covered.
So Sharon kind of continues off. She's basically saying that she doesn't want to hear anything else about Bang Babies ever again. She's tired of it. And because of that, this prompts Robert to think to himself, you know what? Maybe today is not a good day. So this is another opportunity for Virgil and Richie to avoid having to share this secret now, as our episode closes out here for the series finale of Static Shock.
Yeah, here we are. And it is for Power Outage. Mm-hmm. We start with, arguably the biggest crisis yet. Virgil, he didn't take out the garbage. Word. How could you? How could you betray your house like that? They cooked fish last night. And you didn't eat up. The bones are still in there. Come on, man. But yes, Sharon is mad at Virgil for the garbage. And
I like how there were flies around there. Like, this was just last night?
Yeah, what were y'all doing in there? And Virgil's defending himself. Obviously, he was probably busy doing some superhero stuff. And Robert says, oh, yeah, come on over here, boy. Fix my razor real quick with your electric powers. So Robert's demeanor towards Virgil is completely different. He's beaming right now. And I like how they still have him in the glow of discovering his son as a superhero. Mm-hmm. So, things are looking pretty up for Virgil until he gets to school and they finally take that history test that's been delayed.
Oh shit, it was that
one. And because it got delayed so many times, Richie got a B-. Mm-hmm. And there's also one big other thing going on.
Do want to go back real quick because the razor that Robert brings over, I'm like pretty sure that's the same razor from the episode 1 where where Virgil first discovered his powers. So I'm kind of glad that came back, because along with the history exam, that might be some two great callbacks in the first like 3 minutes of the episode.
They they dug deep for this
They
one.
did. But as Richie is just looking over the fact that, he has a B minus, and Virgil doesn't mention anything about the fact that he couldn't shave today. Richie also shares that he's been having some memory lapses, which he's been experiencing more and more. Like, he mentions that he's even shocked that he can even remember his own name. But before they can dive deeper into that, they're quickly interrupted once again by Daisy and Frida, who are upset about the fact that they abandoned them during the recycling program work that the school had. And honestly, Dakota has way too many after school programs. Like, I never thought I'd say this, but damn, do they just run 24/7?
I think so. I think to offset all the insurance losses from the denied Bang Baby claims, they need more volunteer work. And just as the two of them resolve to do better and be more present, there's another supervillain incident going on. So they leave immediately, and the girls see them fly away, and they go, Richie and Virgil are never in the same place when Gear and Static. Do you think? Nah. And I get the joke because, Robert just figured it out. But Daisy should 100% know by this point that Virgil is Static.
Yes, she has been involved in too many scenarios and been saved by Static so many times to not realize that, like, it's got to be somebody close to her. Like, I get if it's like Lois Lane. No, this is Daisy. She came from one of the smartest schools. She could put it together. But we won't have to worry about if Daisy is still trying to, create a board to try to figure out Static's identity, because we cut to a scene. I want to say this was at a bodega where Bigfoot and Ferret, we haven't seen in since that Joker episode back in season 2 or 3. The two of them are robbing the store, and Static and Gear fly in. Static takes on Bigfoot, and Ferret understandably tries to run from Gear. But we don't really see what's happening on their side, because the main fight is with Bigfoot as he kicks Static hard enough to make him fly off his disc. And just when he's about to step on him with his size 120 wide kicks, his body starts to glow, and we see that his feet start to shrink as he starts passing out and falls down to the ground. And we just watch as Static just looks on in horror.
Yeah, I was glad, because I couldn't think of any better pair of villains to bring to the finale. Bigfoot and Ferret, and I'm glad they made that happen for me. But yeah, this is an alarming sight. So alarming, Virgil's like, yo, Richie, cut what you're doing. You need to see that this guy's he's gonna have to start buying regular Jordans like everybody else.
And those are not cheap.
Nope. The bigger you go, the least expensive it gets.
Well, it could have been like $15 for him, for all we know.
It's only for him. So what they learn quickly is in a really, really shocking before they learn what's really going on, the Metabreed meets again. Ferret is in tow, and he loses his abilities right in front of their eyes. And now all of them acknowledge, Francis, Bootleg Hot Girl, Ebon, all acknowledge they've been feeling weaker and Shiv too, have all been feeling weaker than normal. So now the mystery is, who's behind this? What villain could be doing this? And it's a kind of surprising answer.
Yeah, so back in our Wet and Wild episode, we were introduced to Dr. Donald Todd, who was showing that he was using mitochondrial something science terms thrown in here to help cure the Bang Babies. So as Gear and Static take now, who I'm guessing got to call Regular Foot. I have no idea what to call him.
No, that's fair.
They take him to the doctor to get checked out. This is when Dr. Donald Todd jumps in and he reveals that all the Bang babies are now returning to the state that they were in prior to the Big Bang, because he and his team have found a way to create a cure that is being sprayed out into the streets of Dakota, much like during the summertime in New York when the mosquitoes are running high and there's just like a truck that swings by to take them out. And it leaves Gear and Static in shock, because he also reveals that as all the Bang babies are returning to their normal state, this soon will happen to Static and Gear, which means the end of the heroics that they've been doing for the last 4 years, the end of their career as superheroes. Does this change anything for their future? Because they've been expecting to be these heroes for all this time. And we see it making its way home at the Hawkins home, where Virgil and Robert are watching an interview that Dr. Todd is having, where he's revealing everything about this plan and this cure being administered.
Yeah, in a very deep conversation to have on a kids show, one of the presenters brings up, like, shouldn't they have a choice?
Mm-hmm.
Shouldn't the Bang babies choose if they want to get rid of their powers? And Todd is just like, yeah, Todd just says no. Basically, like, they've caused so much trouble, it would be for everyone's benefit if this just was over. And it kind of speaks to, once again, these young kids don't have a choice over or agency what happens to their bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And Static is calm and relatively calm about this news. He sucks, but it sucks for it, but he's taking it really well. And Richie is scared of losing his intelligence, his access. Not to break the entire logic of the episode, however, because it'll come back later. I have to knock the episode a little, but they make up for it later. They do remember that in the future they went to, that they both had their powers, right? Like,
that's the main question I had, because I was like, is this what is the linear timeline of Static? Like, was those moments like not their particular future? Was it a multiverse? Because then that puts in a lot of questions about how time travel works in the DC universe in the world of Dakota, because it's not even just once, it's twice that Static meets, or at least interacts with, his future self. So it's weird that we have this moment where Static is like just accepting of the fact that he's going to lose his powers, and Richie is just like worried, basically like screaming to the clouds that he's going to lose his abilities to be the smartest man and all that. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like there is that weird loophole that does bring up a lot of questions at this point. But we don't spend that much time with it, because I think they just really wanted to focus in on kind of like the dialogue about the autonomy of people, the agency that people have, as well as the little moment that Robert gets to have with Virgil now knowing that he is Static. I think they just like wanted to lean in more into that for this particular scene. But long explanation to just say that time travel is weird, y'all.
yeah, they shouldn't be worried, but they are.
Right.
But even more worried is the meta breed, who break into Dr. Todd's lab. And I love how Francis tries to introduce the members, and they're like, yo, skip the intros, bro. We don't got time for that. And Shiv, basically Lightning Blade McGee, if you guys don't recognize him, threatens to slice this dude up with a buzzsaw. And while there's a power struggle between Francis and Ebon, who should do what, Talon just goes and gets the Bang Baby gas they need. And even though Static and Gear are weakened, they are there to take them on. And since they have less powers, it's less about powers in this fight and more about throwing hands.
Mm-hmm. And we get to see that nobody's hands are rated E for everyone. This is legit just a feat of strength as everybody interlocks fingers to push them back and forth to see who can get pushed down to the ground faster. I will say though that there was one scene in here that was like my second favorite animated scene in these 2 episodes. It is as Static and Francis collide with one another in their very small amounts of power. Their collision creates a blast as the 2 interlock. And it's just kind of showing once again that everlasting battle that the 2 of them have had since the very first episode. We don't get to spend a lot of time in this fight because it's just basically everybody's just like wrestling each other to the ground. Ebon tries to run on over to go help Talon, but at this point, Talon, bootleg Hawk Girl, she experiences her own loss of powers as she reverts back to her original state prior to the Big Bang. And as Ebon reaches over to her to like help her up and as well as to grab the gas, she pushes his hand away. She says that she prefers to just be left alone. She likes being normal, and that ends the era of Talon, who is no longer a part of the meta breed, as we see more and more that Ebon is just really kind of losing control of his team, of his life, and everything.
Yeah, and I love this little beat where she has a name. Like, it's
crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Her name is Teresa, and she lets him know that Ebon doesn't just want to restore his powers; he wants to create a second Big Bang. Ironically, the same plan he had in a previous time travel episode. And
think some other things too.
Right. So he wants to, they obviously have to stop this from happening because, you know, the first time 2 Batsman got hit with the gas, we know like he became the most fearsome supervillain in the world. Even Batman couldn't stop him. So imagine another dose of gas for 2 Batsman. Won't be good.
He might get another bat.
Exactly. 3 bats? No, that's OP.
That's too word.
Darkseid would be like, nah, that's too much, bro. But we do discover that on the way, again, they are losing more and more powers because Gear, and a crazy fact that we did not know, was that his technology is telepathically linked to his thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So he can't control it as well when he loses his intelligence. That is insanely smart.
Yeah. I love that because it now makes sense why his technology was so fast, because he is doing this based off of intuitive thought. Like his dodging, the fact that Backpack is just able to manipulate itself, and it just all makes sense why he rose to be the kind of superhero that he is, that was able to go toe to toe with Static in our previous episode, to be honest. Now we cut to a scene at the docks because Gear is able to figure out one piece of information that states that there is a gathering of people at the docks, and then Static realizes it has to be the same docks where the first Big Bang happened. So we are now at the docks where Ebon is walking out, and he has basically almost lost all of his power. He's reverted back to looking like his normal self. As we look on to see Lightning Blade McGee, aka Shiv, we see Boom from the Brother Sister Act, the guy that had the boom box in his chest. He apparently he went to Best Buy and they were able to take it out for him. We also see Slipstream. He is back also making a very small tornado or gust of wind. And finally, we see that Tamara Lawrence's monster is still there. But I do have a question though, because like if the Big Bang turned her into the monster, why does she still look like the monster?
That's a good question. It seems like it's selectively. Yeah, all these like body changes. I guess that's why they had Ferret change earlier to imply like physical changes go away too. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's weird. And Iban has also kidnapped Teresa and
Mhm.
says, nobody quits my crew. So you're gonna get dosed again. And she's like, yo, you were nothing before, you're nothing now. And I was like, oh, and it's nice too, because nobody recognized Iban when he walked in.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like no one cared who he was before he put on them shadows. So I like that little dig. But luckily Static and Gear get there right in time to help. And as they're fighting, I have to note that Static and Gear are fighting these guys, but they're not complete bang babies at the moment. So like I was like, are you killing these people?
Word, because as Static and Gear are trying to run away, Gear drops one of the zap caps, which I'm pretty sure was fully charged. And he shocks Shiv and Tamara Lawrence's monster, and they basically just pass out. I hope they just passed out. But,
yeah, passed out.
mhm. But as they continue to run away with the canister, the gas, this is where unfortunately they do get cornered and get locked into a dead end because there is no way for them to go, as they get stopped on one side by one group of the gang, and then the rest of the gang comes up to meet up with them. Iban and the rest of the crew grab the canister from Static, and he tells them that, like, you know what, we're gonna open up the can, we're gonna gain back all of our powers, and then we're gonna come back and put, like, basically unalive y'all.
Everyone's so savage in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
But fortunately, Static notices that Francis has run away with the canister already. So Iban goes to chase Francis, and in their struggle, they accidentally unleash the gas and get their powers back, but a little something extra. And because Teresa is the MVP in this episode, graduated from Bootleg Hot Girl, she frees Virgil and Richie just in time for them to also get another helping of the Big Bang gas. And immediately they notice that things are about to go south because of what they've been hearing from Teresa. And indeed, Hot Streak and Iban have fused to become a double-headed fire shadow monster, real Kingdom Hearts final boss vibes, and they are ready to tear Static and Gear to pieces.
Yeah, this is a scary scene. I remember this is the scene that was like engraved in my memory ever since I saw it for the first time, because as they are becoming one, you see that their bodies are expanding and contorting and becoming these monstrous individuals to become this joint being, which I'm surprised you never gave it a name before, but I've been going through a couple. Let me know what you think. I've got Ghostfire.
Okay.
Right.
Little
Okay.
Danny Phantom vibes. I like
Right.
it.
Exactly. I got some alternatives. We got Shadow Flame.
That sounds like it's taken.
Well, in that case, I guess I couldn't go with Black Fire because that was also taken.
Yep.
Right. Now hitting the bottom of the barrel, Darkburn.
Darkburn. Does he deserve that name? Well, half of him is Francis, so I think he kind of deserves Darkburn.
And the last two were Inferno or simply just Dante.
No, those are too cool. Those are
It's
too
too cool.
for
It's
him.
too cool. Okay.
He gets Darkburn.
He gets Darkburn. So Static and Gear are basically throwing everything now at the Fuse villains, who we are now calling Darkburn. As Darkburn is able to show that they can shoot flames from their hands and their mouths, and they're destroying everything on the ship around them. So now it just really seems like the shit's about to hit the fan with everything that's happening.
What is nice about this sequence too is that Static is shooting Kamehamehas right through their stomachs and stuff. Gear notices that Static is more powerful, So I do think this is canonically, we remember in the Future Shock episode, his future self was more powerful. Canonically, I guess this is how that happened. By getting hit with the advanced Bang Baby gas again, he was able to upgrade his abilities to the level where people are shook just thinking of Static.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. Dang. All it took was these are the things that you gotta tell your past selves, man. Like,
yeah. Make sure you're at the docks.
Right.
But in the wild battle with the enhanced skills, Static and Gear are able to send a big gasoline tank into the middle of sorry, I already forgot his name. Darkburn. In the middle of Darkburn. It gives him some heartburn and explodes. And I guess, they were prepared to kill Darkburn, because they're like, you think he's fine? Maybe. Gear helpfully says for the kids and the parents that they're probably okay.
Yeah.
But I don't know about that. It looked like they died.
Yeah, I will say there was one little small scene in which after the ship explodes, that there's a little dark whirlpool, kind of like what Ebon used to create, and there's a little flame that comes out of it. But also it does disappear. So I'm pretty sure he dead. But as Gear is just talking things through, he's just like, maybe he'll come back. Static also comments that, like, we also don't know if there's any other Bang Babies that might have been affected by this. And they quickly realize that, oh, well, Dr. Todd is spraying some more stuff around. But what Gear's going to do is head on back to his lab and create a cure for the cure, as Static smiles, stating that, like, they really ain't going to get rid of us that easily. And we conclude our episode here with the classic Gear and Static fist bump as they fly off to the distance for more journeys. And I do love this one little scene that they did drop at the very end of it too.
Yeah, I like that. You can't get rid of us that easy. That spirit, that that rebellion is still with us, and I think that's the perfect note to end the entire series on. That hope that you will see them again, and maybe you'll see them in Young Justice for 2 minutes, or maybe you'll see them in a movie, but you will see them again.
Yeah. Also, there was one final scene too, I almost forgot, that the moon, as they fly off, transforms into the gold Static emblem. So that's a little even though they're saying that, like, there is a possibility, like, watching this, you would think that, like, oh yeah, it's gonna be another episode next week or next season, but no, this kind of watching this, it was like this was a definitive end. So we made it. That was it. 4 seasons, 52 episodes of the most electrifying Black hero of all time.
Yeah. And I guess one last time, before we get into the whole series of these 2 episodes, what was the stronger note to end on for you? What's the stronger story between these 2?
I mean, I gotta give it to Power Outage. It's, to me, the story made sense for something that was just, to be honest, was kind of a plot point that was kind of dropped in just the episode before. Like, I didn't think that the conclusion was going to come that fast with the idea of the cure. It does make me question, though, kind of like, I do wish that we kind of had some more scenes of other Bang Babies being cured. Like, we had some that really experienced some trauma because of what they were dealing with, like Mirage from the Brother and Sister Act, Dwayne, I think his name was, from Child's Play, the little brother that can create anything. Also, like Destruct from season 1, and the whole Nightbreed. Like, I wish we got a chance to see if they got to experience a little bit of joy recognizing that their powers were disappearing. But I think story-wise, it is much better here in Power Outage than it was in Kidnap, which again, I love Kidnap because of the whole scene between the conversation between Virgil and Robert after finding out that Static is his secret identity. But Karen just did not give me a good enough argument. It just did not work out for me. What about you?
I know you didn't do that on purpose, but Karen not giving a good enough argument. It's
It
hilarious.
wasn't.
Honestly, I am. I gotta play. I gotta take evil Karen's side on this one. I think
no,
Kidnapped was slightly stronger, and it's because of the reasons you mentioned that it. Don't get me wrong, Power Outage is a great finale. However, what you mentioned, yeah, I would have liked to see what happened to the Nightbreed and all these other characters that had populated through the series, and they did a great job of cramming in as many characters as they could.
Yeah,
but no shade to Bigfoot. But I'm kind of wondering what happened to the icy meta and these other metas that had kind of were stuck in between, the athlete that was stuck in between the state of like being a meta and not. So I feel like they brought up some good ideas and they did some amount of fan service, but I was kind of hungry for it to be a little bit longer just for the finale, just so we could get more of it. And I do think Virgil forgetting about the time travel in the future where he's perfectly fine does suck a little bit of tension out of the story, because we do know he has to get his powers back. There's no real question about it. So I think those are the two things that knock it down a little bit for me. And Kidnapped, I think it is yes, Karen is shallow as a pool, but I think for overall, I can overlook her motivations in this point as the same way I'm overlooking Ebon creating another Big Bang. Bro, why do you keep doing this? Because I do love that Robert finally gets to learn who Virgil is. I love the stakes and tension of losing Robert was very high. And I mean, I was legitimately shocked when Robert did the reveal. And that was like the strongest reaction I can remember a Static episode giving me in a while. So that's why I had to lean. That's why I had to lean with Karen. I'm sorry. She's not calling my manager, but I got to call hers because I appreciate the episode.
All right. No, yeah, I hear that, especially before the it is true. I feel like these last couple episodes that we got with Static didn't really give us as much as the reactions as we wanted as the previous seasons have done, which does now transition us to our next set of questions. Worst season of Static and best season of Static.
That is a solid question there, because season 1 has the 99% of Germs episode.
yes, of course.
Season 2 also has Static Shack. But yeah, it is really it's difficult, and it's very close, but I do think, despite having Romeo in the mix, that I think season 3 is the best season. Flip that on you. Season 3 had a great number of team ups. The animation was at its strongest. Every story, for the large part, felt very strong. And even the weakest episodes, which would be, your like Consequences, maybe, and Shebang, are like maybe the weakest episodes of that season. But overall, the season is very strong. It has all the Static storytelling, beautifully rendered, opened up with a great Harley Quinn episode, introduced Gear. I think season 3 all around did it for me. And then in terms of the weakest season, I think it really was because of production issues. Season 2 feels real uneven because it has Static Shock. Like the Sunspots episode where powers were just everywhere. Well,
Yeah, that's true. Forgot about that one.
Attack of the Living Brain puppets.
Ugh, we don't want to talk about that one.
And it's sad because it has the very strong Jimmy episode about school violence. It has Frozen Out, which is, I'll say it now, my favorite episode of Static. But I think it was a very uneven season. How about you?
I agree with you on season 3 being the best season. I'm not even going to play around with it. I agree with the great team ups, the introduction of Gear. You know, again, they were planning on getting rid of the Richie character because they just felt like his story just didn't match up with Virgil's anymore, given the growth of Static over the last 2 seasons. And we can kind of see why that happened, especially because in the comics, there is a really drastic division between Static and Gear. So I can understand why they decided that it'd be easier to fade them away. But I'm really glad that they kept him in, brought him in as Gear. And that one just had episodes like the flashback episode where we did have a lot of questions about time travel, but it did give us a moment for us to meet with Virgil's mom. And I think we had like a lot of great cast members in that as well, with more growth from Rubber Band Man. We also had Static in Africa, which I will also say right now is actually favorite episode. And also Soul Power. Like, you know, this was a season in which we got a chance to see Static recognizing himself as someone who needs a mentor, but at the same time, someone who is learning from these big superheroes and big characters that he too is an icon. Worst season, I am stuck honestly between seasons 2 and 4. I think I do agree with season 2 not having a coherent storytelling. But in terms of weakest episodes, season 4 had more of them, in my opinion. And it could be just because season 4 ran a little shorter, but I do feel that once we hit episodes like 5 or 6, between then and our episodes now, I don't really see either of them as memorable in season 4. But I will give worst season to season 2 just because of the fact that the storytelling, like you said, was a bit uneven. Season 4 just feels like they just knew that they had to wrap up something and just had to really just grab whatever ideas that they could think of.
Yeah. And Static Shock.
And Static Shock. Yes. Yes. All right. So we talked about best series episodes. I think we're both in agreement because I also did really, really, really enjoy Frozen Out as well. That was a competitor for the top spot. But because we talked about the best, we got to talk about the worst. Which ones were the 1% of the germs that didn't survive?
Yeah. I mean, as much as I have just piled on Static Shock, the actually worst episode for me was did involve 99% of germs because it was Grounded. This episode just didn't make any sense. It was just like some concentrated bang baby gas creates giant cockroaches and giant amoebas and attacks the school. The series has had some up and downs, but if you put this episode near everything else, it feels like a completely different show. It's like, what is going on? Where is the clever writing? Where are the messages? Like, yeah, even Static Shock tried to go for a message, but this Grounded episode doesn't offer much unless you like big cockroaches and Purell. So that's mine. What's yours?
Well, for not the same reasons, but I will give it to this episode for just being and feeling completely unnecessary to the canon. I gotta give it to Duped. I really wanted to give it to Hoop Squad. You know,
Hoop Squad, no. What about Point Man?
He's the only reason why they were saved, honestly. But I gotta give it to Duped. It even though Hoop Squad again was an episode that didn't want to be made, Dupe just felt like, given the fact that Rubber Band Man had several episodes through this series as an arc for his own character, it just felt like Duped was a bit unnecessary because of the fact that it dived in a lot into who he was, but not in the way that I personally wanted to find out. I mean, yeah, we got AJ McLean and Coolio making some appearances, but at the same time, it just felt unnecessary. And there were a lot of confusing things. Like, if Coolio can turn into a werewolf, does that mean that he actually eats people as well? You know, the fact that we had to ask that question, we never got an answer. This is the reason why I got the worst episode for me.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably agree if I even remembered watching this episode. I barely remember Duped at all. So I'm definitely going to take your word for it.
So because of the fact you brought up Point Man, you know, there's a lot of heroes that were introduced to the Static Shock series. We had Gear, Soul Power, Anansi, Shebang, a couple of them, some more. Is there a character or a set of characters that you feel can earn a spinoff after their introduction?
Oh, you already know my answer. It's the Nightbreed.
Yeah.
The Night Watch? The
Nightbreed? Yeah, the Night Watch.
Whatever. The Night Stalkers? Whatever their name is, I want more of these characters struggling, rejected by society, having to live with limited light. I think it's a great opportunity to do more of some darker, if done right, you know, like Young Justice is doing a great job of highlighting really serious issues. And I think with the Nightbreed, you could really get into things about homelessness and, you know, exploitation and all these very deep teenage topics. And what about someone who does want to break out from the Nightbreed and head into the light? What are they doing to try to cure themselves? Is there a divide going down? Is there a power struggle? There's so much, I feel, so much rich material. And, you know, of course, love characters like Anansi. They are fantastic. And definitely, I hope they come back. But yeah, for me, I want to see more of the Nightbreed. I watched an entire Disney Plus series about it. HBO Max.
Yeah, HBO. No, I agree. Nightbreed was definitely the ones that I was just like, I need to see more about them. I think they left off in such a great way with them deciding to really just take care of themselves, to try to find the cure for themselves. And fortunately for us, the Nightbreed is a very similar comic book set of characters as we do have Blood Syndicate. Fade is a member of the Blood Syndicate, as well as Brick House is also a member of the Blood Syndicate, so we do get a chance to see some of these characters pop up in the comics. And I do know that they're bringing them back in comic book form, dropping on May 10th, I believe, is when we get the new era of the Blood Syndicate. So I agree. I think the Nightbreed created a world of their own in the 20s odd minutes that they had to do something. And even though we kind of did clown them over the fact that they were basically like X-Men Evolution, you know, I think that they created enough of a compelling story arc that I want to see more of that. Last question. Biggest takeaway lesson from the Static Shock series. Now, we both grew up watching the show, watched it as it aired, recorded it on our VCRs. We did not pirate it though. Don't worry about that.
All legit.
Yeah, all legit. And now we have jumped to about 20 odd years into the future, rewatching it again. What is something that you feel that you're going to take with you now as an adult after watching this series?
There is a lot. There's a lot and that speaks to how good of a quality the series is. But I think the overall theme of Static that kept reoccurring, even in the lesser episodes like Hoop Squad, is that instead of waiting for someone to be the hero in your neighborhood, in your community, in your school, you step up, you take ownership, you do what you can, whether that is inviting an outcast to your house to learn about what they're into and try to get to know them better, whether that is volunteering at a community center once a week to read comics, the new Flash, to an old man, or go out and doing superheroics. It doesn't matter. If you see a problem and you are incensed enough to do something about it, you can and you should. That's Static's foundation. He could have easily become a thief, use his powers to just steal from vending machines. He did not have to step up, but he did. And all his characters, powered or not, continually step up, especially Richie before he had powers and was just throwing hands all the time. So I think that is the biggest and most enduring message of Static. If you have the ability to help in any way, to make a difference, to shine a light, to do some good, just go out there and do it. See what happens. Maybe you might be surprised at how much of a difference you'll make to people watching and to yourself.
Damn. Well said. Well said. I don't even know how to follow up with that. No, but honestly, it's the same thing that I also got to. Is like, are you just reading my notes?
Yeah, I'm actually I used the virus from Karen,
the Project
and I hacked into your webcam earlier today. I'm sorry.
Well, I 100% agree with this because it's true. Like it does show us that, like, regardless of how old you are, if you feel like you can make a different, step up. And it echoes out through not only from Static, but just the people he interacts with. Like, just even Robert, he has shared with us so many words of wisdom from the smallest moments of how he interacts with his son, just showing pure joy and love, not trying to push him to become a man and take on more responsibilities, like that kind of rah kind of thing. It's more just like, I want you to appreciate what you have now. And then once he learned that his son was already just doing good without being pushed to do good about his superpowers, he just said, I understand that this conflicts with what I want for you, but I also know that you were given these abilities for a reason. And I am proud of the journey that you're already taking with it, because I can't stop you from being a hero and saving lives. Like, it's something that he has to commend his son for, because the same way that he's stepping out there and being a social worker for all the people that were in Dakota, it's echoes a lot to what we can do, as you were mentioning, what we can do as people to just help out a fellow person. You see somebody out there, give a hand to something. There's so many ways in which you can help. And I'm glad that this Saturday morning cartoon that premiered back in the 2000s, lasted for 4 seasons, 52 episodes, was able to convey those messages in a way that I feel truly revolutionized the thinking that a lot of kids had at that point, and showing that, yeah, we know that you live in this kind of world, in this society where things can go wrong, but at the end of the day, you have more power than you think to change the scenario, flip the script. And I'm really glad that we got a chance to go on this journey and experience this world and this universe that was created by Milestone.
They rooted a world in reality and never lost sight of it.
Mm-hmm.
Even when you're battling 99% germs.
Or teaming up with Point Man.
Teaming up with Point Man. They never truly got too far away from what was real and what was meaningful to audiences, especially young Black audiences. And that is something we'll always be appreciative of, because, again, growing up, we didn't have a lot of these. Right. So to have a series step forward and be there, be the beacon before TV got more diverse and more and told a wider range of stories, we can never forget Static for that, and we'll always want more. We always want more Static. He's more than just a cameo in somebody else's intervention. Young Justice. He deserves some plot lines, and we hopefully will get more shine in the years to come.
So with that, I'm just gonna give the flowers to those who've earned them. Just a thank you to the late great Dwayne McDuffie, Derek T. Dingle, Dennis Cowan, and Michael Davis for putting together Milestone Media, for creating the Dakotaverse, as you call it, the world of Static, the universe of Static, bringing forward these Black superheroes, and for DC Comics for publishing these stories through the Milestone Media company. And again, for the thank you to the voice actors that brought this world to life. I'm talking about, Matt Ballard, who voiced our boy Carmandillo.
Yes.
Cheek Venera, who voices Ferret. Danica McKellar, who voices Frida. Brian Tochi, who voices Shiv. Tia Tejada, who voices Teresa, aka Talon. Danny Cooksey, who voices Francis, aka Hot Streak. Crystal Scales, who voices Daisy. Gary Sturgis, who voices Ebon. Michelle Morgan, who voiced Sharon Hawkins. Kevin Michael Richardson, who voiced so many characters, but more importantly, Robert Hawkins. Jason Marsden, who voiced Richie Foley, aka Gear. And finally, Phil Lamar. Thank you for voicing Virgil Hawkins, aka Static. That's the end of our episode. That is the end of the Static season. Thank you for joining us for this particular season. We have more episodes to come, so stay tuned. But until next time, take care of yourselves and remember that representation matters, because Static has done so much for us in our generation, and he truly is a hero that has earned his seat in the Pantheon.
Yeah, and whether it is Jaden Smith or someone else, try to promote as much as you can, getting him out there in live action, finally getting our Static movie. Lord knows we could all use one. And stay safe out there. Avoid the 99% germs.